publications, which of course you can't always read because you can't pay the subscriptions. And we spend massive amounts on databases to extract that information back out of those publications. And by making data release mandatory across things, it does make it easier to extract information, regardless of whether it's a large amount of information from a big data collection project or lots of small amounts of information. This extends to supplementary data associated with publications as well.
Just a question about your prize model about funding and developing new drugs. Is there a potential risk here about quality control if almost anybody can make a new drug? I mean, we know that there are bogus, there are total phony drugs available on the website. But do you see that as a problem or not?
So the question, in terms of getting a drug approved, it's clear it goes through FDA, NICE approval, same as exactly as before. Manufacturing quality afterwards, there are actually really quite good regulations in place. There is a problem with counterfeits where people make fake drugs or substandard drugs, but there are actually mechanisms in place to manage that. And what you see right now, in fact, is a very diverse manufacturing process across the world, where there are many manufacturers of many drugs, and that the structures are in place for that. So I don't think it's a really big significant problem, because even if you're a generic manufacturer, you still have to have it approved in terms of equivalent quality. It just allows different people to compete without worrying about the IP.
Thank you. Any more points? Right. Oh yes, last one.
Very quick question. In the diagrams that you showed us, there is one corner with government. It's or decision makers or policy makers. The question is to know how sincere do you think these people are about open knowledge and open data? When you take the example of Europe, for example, they have enough buttons to push, but they don't have anything that we can call open source policy, coordinated policy for open data. So do they know what they want? And if yes, what is it?
So, okay, I think this relates to research about research. That actually, if you look at the incentives that have been used, there are these tax incentives to drugs, for certain types of drugs, orphan drugs, for example. If you ask the policymakers, what's the effect on this? They have no idea. They just don't know. Are they throwing money out of good money after old? They have no idea. However, there is some research now. For example, it's an open data example. The Ordnance Survey has, the UK Ordnance Survey has, been quoted as saying they save the government £65 million a year by charging for their services instead of getting the money from the Treasury. And the Treasury has been gung-ho about this for a while. However, an economic analysis came along, this is from scientists at Cambridge University, which says that, yes, you save 65 million, but you lose the taxation on $1 billion of economic activity in the UK because you don't get the innovation of mapping services that people would pay for and you would tax. And this is causing a change in policy. So there's a consultation which ended 2 days ago on the Ordnance Survey to move it entirely into open data, just as the US is open data. And if you look at the number of mapping services there are, the whole GPS thing in the US, it's much more developed than it is here. And that's a transaction cost around data. So there is some analysis that policymakers are now listening to, saying that, which is kind of like the environmental things as well, don't chop this forest down, because if you do, you have to build a huge sewage system over here. And actually, if you do the economic analysis and take in all these things into account, you can find things which appear to cost you money because they look like they're free, but actually they save you money somewhere else, or they allow something else to be generated which is then taxable. And I think this generally shows just a total lack of enough economic analysis, broad enough economic analysis. There are many examples where chunks of government do little bits of isolated economic analysis and don't see the interactions between them. I would almost argue we need a Wikipedia for economic data and a wiki simulation in the public domain so we can challenge a lot of these policy ideas with exploration of different models.
Thanks very much, Tim.